The first thing is investing in gear that you don't need or thinking you have to wait to get started until you get a certain piece of gear. The truth is, you really don't need any specific piece of hardware to get started. As long as you have a computer or a tablet or even a phone, you can use some free software on the computer or a free app on your phone or tablet. And there's lots of free music making programs out there or apps for you to grab. Back when I first started, I used the demo version of FL Studio because there were no free DAWs back then. And then I would connect the line out of my guitar amp into my sound blaster that was on my computer at the time. And then I would use virtual instruments for the rest of the sounds. And there's lots of free virtual instruments out there as well. Was this the ideal way for me to get started? Probably not, but I did start to get used to the software and develop some techniques within that software before I even got any hardware. And then when I did start to get some gear, I was that far ahead and I was ready to level up my game anyway. A MIDI keyboard, it's nice to have, but it's not necessary to get started. You can program your MIDI in the piano roll, which is what I did for years when I first started out. Studio monitors and studio specific headphones, again, they're great to have, but they're not necessary to get started. Just start with whatever headphones you might have, even if they're just earbuds that came with your phone or something like that. So just get started right away with what you have, and then you can acquire gear as you go along. Your early tracks, they may not be your greatest tracks, but they're great stepping stones to start to learn the software and just get an overall idea of what it's like to create music at home on a computer or a tablet. Now, this next point is giving up too soon. Maybe you've downloaded a free DAW, or maybe you paid for one because somebody told you it's the best one. So you thought, okay, I'm going to grab that and I'm going to start making music. You get that program open and it's just overwhelming to you. You start to realize, oh, there's going to be a learning curve here. It's not as easy as I thought it would be. But if you had that urge and feeling inside of you that you wanted to create music, you've got some musical ideas inside you that you want to record onto your computer and get out there for the world to hear, chances are that feeling is not going to go away. So maybe you give up now and that feeling keeps eating at you, so you decide to go back in and try it again, and then you realize, oh yeah, this is why I quit the first time. It's just too hard to learn. So then you give up again and you still have that feeling eating at you inside. You want to create the music, you just don't want to learn the software. But all that time that you've wasted in between quitting and then going back, you could have been spending some time in the software, just poking around, getting used to it. And once you get past that initial learning curve, it gets really easy. And then it becomes just about developing your own mixing style and your own workflows so that you can start to create music more quickly and getting more music out there. So don't give up too early. And now this next point kind of goes hand in hand with the last one, but it's changing out your recording software too often. You may have heard from a friend or maybe from another video that a specific DAW or music making software is the best one, and you absolutely must have that piece of software to make music at home. So you grab that software and you ditch whatever you've been learning on already, and then you open it up and you start poking around and you realize, oh, I don't really like this, but so-and-so said this was the best one, so I need to learn this. And maybe that's not the best software for you. It could be best for whoever you heard it from, but it doesn't mean it's the best software for you. So if whatever music making program or DAW that you're already using is working for you and you're getting some good results from it and you're enjoying working with it, don't worry about what somebody else says is the best. Whatever program you know how to use and you enjoy using, that's going to be the best one for you. And if you're still trying to figure out what program might be best for you, I recommend downloading 2 or 3, giving each one a good test drive, and then see which one feels really good to you and you get along with, then learn that one. Just continue learning that one specific program and becoming an expert at it. And then that way, when you start to make your music in it, it's going to be more about the music making and less about figuring out how to do certain things within the program. And now this next thing comes when you're a little further along and you start mixing your songs. You might be tempted to compare your tracks to some big artist tracks. And that's cool that you want to do that, but you got to remember that those big artists, they've probably had a mix engineer mix their tracks for them. And then once they have the final mix, that would get exported to a mastering engineer, and then it's going to get mastered afterwards. So you're trying to make your home studio mixes sound like some big band's polished, mastered tracks. And what you might start doing is you might hear some airiness in those mastered tracks. So now you're going to take an EQ maybe on your vocals, and you're going to start cranking up the highs on the vocals, maybe on the guitars, maybe on the snare, whatever it is. You're going to start to try to sound like those mastered tracks just by EQing during the mixing process. And then you're going to start messing a whole lot up by doing that. So don't start to really compare your mixes to a final mastered track. You can compare things like panning and maybe compression and those sorts of things, and maybe even your levels, but don't try to get that final polished sound during the mixing phase. You can save that for the mastering stage. Now, this next point goes along with the mixing process, and that's having everything be too loud. If everything's just cranked up, it's going to be hard for you to have your vocals stand out, your drums stand out, your guitars, whatever it is you want to stand out. You're just going to have a big loud mess because everything's just competing with each other. Now, what I like to do is I start with my drums and I'll solo them. I'll bring them down so they're between -18 and -12 dB, somewhere in there. And then I'll add my bass guitar in, and then I'll start to turn that up until it sits nicely with the drums. And then I'll add the next thing, which may be the guitar bus. I'll start to mix that in so it sounds nice in there. And yes, it is going to be quieter when mixing this way. Just crank up your headphones. That's what I do, and it works out quite well because you don't want everything to be peaking during the mixing. You want to have some headroom in there when you're doing the mastering. And if you're still searching for a music making program or DAW, check this video on the screen for some of the best ones that you can download right now. And if you liked this video that you're watching right now, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. For Audio Tech TV, I'm Zane. Keep creating. Fist bump. Thumbs up.